welcome back to the next video on building my little shed, which will eventually form a new larger layout. So the last one seemed to go down very well, a lot of positive comments, a couple of constructive ones, which is always great to see, so thank you for those. It's always interesting to hear people's ideas because it quite often sort of jogs my mind into thinking about other things and ways I could do other stuff differently. So yeah, always thankful for the comments, and it's been brilliant to see the reaction, and the video has done quite well, so yeah, happy days. But I need to get a move on with this. So you see in the last video we got all the track down, I got the depot cut, and I had stuff sort of all coming into place, where it's going to go and things like that, and going through various ideas. So I think this one, I want to get the track wired up. I want to try and see if we can get some movement on here, and also I want to do the hard standing in the shed area, and get that all looking nice, get the concrete sort of textured paint on there and just blend it all in nicely so that I can get the shed sort of down and all looking a bit proper. So I suppose first of all though, I've got a little job to do that I was meant to do at the end of the last one, and that's just chuck some bullet buffer stops on. So I'll do those, then I think we'll move on to a bit of wiring and cutting up some plastic guard. So the buffer stops are in. I guess what's left to do now is start drilling some holes so we can solder some dropper wires on. So let's clear the layout off and get going. Reds in then, and you can see what I meant before, where I said in the last video I was going to solder them underneath the rails, so it didn't really matter that I'd lay the track first, because on bore head there is a little bit of room, so you can just see there. Obviously it probably looks a little untidy, but you've got to bear in mind the shininess of it will make it show up very easily. When that's painted you won't see it, especially by the time there's ballast down. But yeah, they're all good. I've given them all a little pull to make sure that they're not going to ping off, and I'm happy with those. So now it's time to do the black ones. Right, I am now making the floor for the depot, which obviously will be a flush concrete floor. So to do that, I've got 2 mil plastic card. You can see I've cut this first bit out, so I worked out where I wanted it to go. I basically marked out the ends of the sleepers and sort of winged the curve there, hence it's not perfect. But this is only the bottom layer. There will be another layer to go over the top, which should go flush up to the rails. I want to try and find something that's a little bit thinner so the rails stick out slightly, just because then when I clean the rails, it won't take all the paint off, and it will make cleaning a lot easier. So that's the plan. So this is just going to be the base layer, then another piece on top basically. So I'm just doing the second one now. I've just got this plastic card. It's the same stuff I was using, as you can see, to stop myself painting all the grass when I was painting the track. Hence it's brown, but that doesn't really matter. So I basically put that in there up against the sleepers. I've marked where the edge of that one is, and I drew a mark on down there where I need this edge to be. I'll cut that with a Stanley blade, and fingers crossed that will fit inside here. So those two bits are in now. I've glued them down with Rocket Rapid. I don't know if anyone's used this, but it does get a bit annoying because the lid all goes all funny and you can't get it back on again. You end up having to buy another one because it gets all blocked. But I've got the third piece now here. Is it that way around? No, it's that way. So that sits there like that. However, I can't glue this one down yet because I've got to fit this little bit of track. So this track is going to go off scene, hence I've cut this building out. So that allows, well, that stops you being able to see the locos run back past, and it just means that I can keep the track a bit straighter. Obviously, it also stops you looking in the shed from this way, so it sort of prevents you seeing it all. But of course, with the curve, I can't really fit this just yet because it's going to curve down here just slightly, but then it's going to go basically as straight as I can get it. So I'm going to have to put this little stub of track in now. I'm going to use a bit of Code 75, I think, just Code 75 wooden. The reasoning being is the rail, I think, is a bit stronger, so it'll be a bit better for the baseboard edge being on such an angle. And of course I'll have to fit some copper clad there and stuff to stop it all moving, but that's the plan for this sort of minute. And then I will get this bit in, and then we can go and fit the top piece, which needs to be a bit thinner. I have got some thin stuff here, but it might be too thin. The problem is the chairs. I'm gonna have to try and sort of cut it around the chairs and mess about, but I am tempted to instead just go up to the chairs and then use a little bit of filler in between, and then just obviously sand it all flat before painting. I think that might be an even easier option. But yeah, I'm going to get this bit of track in, and then I'll sort this out, and then we'll be back. We have made some progress. So I did put this track in the end. I had to go up and see Anthony again and get some replacement copper clad sleepers from Concepts. Finally bought another pack. So this is what they look like, the kind of big sprue. They are so very, very handy, and they are probably the best products that DCC Concepts do, in my opinion. Yeah, you can see we are getting there now. We've got this bit in as well. The buffer stop, I've taken it out again, just so that I can get that little end piece in shortly. Hence, it's loose. But yeah, looking good. Now, I have left the rails slightly proud, so I've used a thinner plasticard than you would ideally like to get it flush, but obviously that'll make it a lot easier to clean, and hopefully I won't rub off the paint from doing that. It's only just sticking up proud though, so it should be fine. Obviously I've got to do this road now, and I've got to do just that little bit of the entrance, so that should be looking good. But you get the idea, it's looking pretty cool. And also, I never really thought about it, but sticking your phone in like this does make for a pretty cool view through the side of the shed, so that'll be fun when it's all up and running. So yeah, I'm just gonna basically keep cutting away and filling these bits in. We've got a sleeper or two missing there, but you're never gonna see it because it's on the plastic card, so not bothered about that. And obviously I went a bit ham on the copper clad sleepers because once this is in, it's in, and I never want to have to mess with it again. So hence there's a lot of sleepers in that bit. Put the dropper wires in on that bit as well, so we are good to go. Let's get ready to rumble. So I've got the P38 out. It's now time to get this all sorted. So I have taped off the inner edges of the track. I obviously only want it to go up to the outside of the rail. I've got an old scrap piece of wood that I'm going to spread it on. So we're just going to grab some out. To be fair, we shouldn't need much at all because it's only a very thin little area we're doing. So I've probably put way more on there than I need. And normally you use sort of a pea-sized amount of hardener. I'm going to go with a little more than that because I want it to set fairly fast because I'm impatient. Obviously, the more hardener you put in, the quicker it generally will set. So you just want to really sort of mix it up and get it a nice even pink colour like this. You don't want to mess about too long because obviously it will start to go off. So you dab it in there like that, and then come along after and go down the join. That saves getting it everywhere like I have here. If I take that off, that'll save me some time later as well. And you'll get to a point where the filler starts going off, and you'll notice it because it will start sort of balling up when you're trying to spread it around. So that's the point of no return, really. You want to very, very quickly finish up what you're doing and give up at that point, because that means you've had it. And to be honest, this is taking longer than I thought, so I think we're going to get to that stage here, which is a shame. So we might have to do a second pass. Obviously safety first and all that, so I've got my special protective hoodie over my nose and mouth mask on, but for you guys at home I would suggest doing this in a well ventilated area, ideally outside. I don't really fancy getting sued and I probably can't afford the bill. There we are then, everything's put back, the paint has dried, and it's looking really good. You can see now it was definitely worth me using that filler just to go up to the edge of the rails. It looks a lot better. In the shed, we've got L150 showing off just on the pitted road. But yeah, you can see there, it was definitely worth the effort, I think. I even chucked a little bit of filler in the gaps here where the gaps in the sleepers are. I need to come in with the DA sander and just sand flush that edge along with along here as well. There's a few little areas where it just pokes out slightly, and of course in the long run when this is bolted to another baseboard, which will be the Ongar fiddle yard, it needs to be flat, so obviously I'll do that. One little thing I did realise is this building, now that I've chopped it up and it's probably worthless, is actually no good. Reason being, the roof isn't tall enough. Now I knew the roof was obviously short, but what I didn't think about, whoops, was because originally I was going to have a second radius curve coming off here, so the curve was going to come off here somewhere. Originally locos would have missed that roof completely, they would have come out here, so locos would have sort of exited here instead, so the roof would never have gone past this point. However, because I've slackened that off to help with the baseboard join, what it means is that I tried pushing this loco through it when I had the other bit of track connected, of course, before I chopped it off, and it actually hit this roof. Now, as you can see, I did go mad with a Dremel and an emery cloth piece to try and make clearance, but it just wasn't working out, and I actually ended up breaking the corner of the building off there, so it really just wasn't going to happen. So instead I'm going to have to think of something that sits a bit higher. I might actually just custom build something off the end of the shed, because I've got to basically do some sort of brick in there anyway if I kept this, so I might as well get rid of this and completely just build something that's this height off of the end there, and then that would solve that problem. But we might even keep to this sort of theme, a couple windows and a door, like some little sort of storage room that goes on the end of the depot, something like that. Maybe a little sort of crew mesh room kind of looking thing. That'd be cool. I could even have the door open if I did that, and put a little table and chairs just off scene here for me to look at when it's in cabin mode. But yeah, it's looking really good though. Obviously I've got the crane in position as well. You can see it's obviously looking very clean. It will need weathering, but if I come in, you can see, well, I don't know if you can see actually. There you go. It's got a bit of texture to it, which is nice. So that concrete paint really does do a nice job. In person, it looks great. It's nice that it's not all just one plain smooth grey. It has got little sort of divots and imperfections. That probably shows it a lot better. But yeah, I think that's going to do the job. I did, I don't know if you noticed, but I did score in some lines, which would be the gaps between each sort of section of concrete. And obviously with the filler, I filled in those very slightly by mistake. However, you can still see them through the paint in places. So it means that I know where they are. So what I will do is I will probably mask up and I'll use the airbrush. So once I've weathered it, I'll then use the airbrush just to go down those lines with a little streak. So it looks like that's a gap in the concrete, and that will help a lot better. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. So that's that little bit done. Pretty pleased with how that's gone. I took the opportunity as well while that was drying to get my 3-car Craven set out of the cabinet and just double check it does fit in the siding there, and it does indeed fit in the siding and easily fits within the clearance point for other vehicles. So if I bring that little wagon down there, you can see we've got loads of space. Not a problem in the slightest there. So the clearance point is probably there somewhere. So you can see we've got loads of room for error, so that's nice. So yeah, that's really good. So that does motivate me to electrify that siding, because then of course that train can trundle in that brake spear and it can come out here when something else is going to run around. So that would be really cool. Even got a little bit of room before the stops. So yeah, really pleased. So now is a boring job, even more boring than doing all this. And that is that I've got to paint the rail sides, because I want to get it all painted looking nice before I ballast it this time. So I want to paint the rail sides, and I want to do something in this foreground area. I want to have a room to park a car or two, because I've had these trackside London transport vehicles for a long time, and they're a bit too old school for my layout. So on here will suit perfectly, I think. So I'm going to make a little sort of raised parking area there, and as I say, paint the track, and then ballasting will be the last thing in the video. Currently doing the worst job ever in the world. I've got some paint and I'm painting the rail sides. So I'm doing this side first, and I've now finished that side. That was the pain in the back side to do, because I've got to lean over. And now I can do this side facing me. So I've done most of this point, so that's cool. I've just got to continue on. So normally I would probably cheat and just paint one side, because eventually I'll come across with the airbrush anyway and it'll take most of it away. However, this small little layout will be viewable from both sides. So when it's in the cabin, I look at it obviously this way on, unless I'm taking a photo from this side. But generally I look at it from this way. But if I ever take this to an exhibition, you will be looking at it from this side always. So in this case, obviously I have to paint it both sides. So it's a bit of a pain, but it's worth doing. Normally I would just go gung-ho and ballast everything first and go mental, but I thought for once I'm going to do it properly. So wish me luck. The track is now all painted. Pretty happy with how that looks. Obviously he's caught the chairs as well, which probably helps just sort of give a bit of variation. So now is the fun job of going over it all with the track rubber to bring up the shiny track surface again, so that you can actually run some trains. So I've got to do this over the whole lot, as you can see, then hoover it off, and hopefully we can get on with something else. That's the tops of the rails cleaned off then with the track rubber, and you can see the amount of debris that it leaves behind. So make sure you hoover up after yourself. Look in the frog of those points. It just goes to show, if you clean your layout regularly with a track rubber, just how much it leaves deposits. So yeah, you just really need to be following it with the hoover and picking all that debris up, because that's all going inside your locomotives. So what I've done is I've gone over it very hard with the rubber to get all the rubbish off the surface, and then I've basically gone back over it just using basically just the weight of the rubber itself very lightly, and that has basically taken all the marks and the rough bits out, so you end up with this nice polished surface. Because if you do this too vigorously, you'll see it basically scratches the rails, and that's what you don't really want, because that attracts dirt. So yeah, just go over it nice and hard to get all the paint and rubbish and dirt off, and then just go over it really gently after and basically polish the rails, and then that should leave you looking good. So I did also lay these curves in yesterday, which is the new bit. Obviously this used to be 2 lines going into one with a curved point there, so I think I mentioned this in the previous video, we've sacked that idea off, and the branch is now a single line all the way to the scissor crossing, and then from the scissor crossing you can access the depot from here. So you can see the curve now. Obviously it is quite extreme, it doesn't look too bad really, but that is just to get enough of a curve in and so that it's not too sharp. So that's about radius 2 at its maximum point. So yeah, I just went and sprayed those with sleeper grime last night, and obviously that's dried as well, so I've just taken the tops of that off and polished that. And then we've got this curve in here. For some strange reason I didn't put this sleeper in, so I will do that at some point. But I have tried this curve now with a Cavalex Class 56, being that the Cavalex 56 has a decent stay alive in it, because the layout is not hooked up to power yet. I've got power on this track and this little section, so I just wanted to use the 56 to run in there, see if a big diesel will cope with the curve, and then basically see how far it makes. So I'll chuck that little clip in. This is the genuine first test then. I've not run a loco through yet, and I've just put some little jumper cables on just to power the first point, because being unifrog, you don't need insulated joiners, so that one point should be able to power the whole layout. There we go. Will it make it around the curve? I'm not convinced. Oh, it helps if I put the rear axle on, doesn't it? It's through. It's a bit jumpy. Couple dead spots, I think. However, excellent. We made it. So that was a successful first test of the track then. I've been up all the roads and they all work fine. Seem to be okay. I've even used it for a bit of Cavalex 56 testing, as you can see, ignoring that pile of rubbish over the back there. They've got 2 56s on there even. Now, in the first couple tests, sorry, I did notice that with the 060 pannier tank and the 262 Prairie, basically the 3 coupled axles were causing a problem. Now the locos were tending to jump here on the first leading axle of the 3 powered ones, and obviously because in this sort of setup where it integrates with the main layout, it has to have this curve. Whereas when this is bolted to Ongar, or when this is on its own standalone setup, which it will be available for, it will of course be a straight run into here, so it won't be such an issue. But the leading wheel, because of the curvature and the wheels obviously riding against this rail, it was just popping off on this switch rail where it meets the outer rail. Now it would stay on the track every single time without fail, from what I could tell. So it would pop up and then fall straight back down, and the loco would carry on as normal. Obviously, though, I want reliability, so I didn't want that happening. So I've actually had to get the Dremel and file this point, a little bit of this point away, and then get a needle file in there and just file it down. It's not something I obviously wanted to do on a brand new point, but it was something that was necessary because the points don't quite sit fully flush. It actually sat with a very slight step outwards, which obviously wasn't ideal. You can't really see it because it's such a fine little thing. But the little recess for the switch rail isn't big enough. So I've actually filed the switch rail down, and now we don't have the problem. I have also come in with the soldering iron. I've tweaked some of the sleepers on here just to sort of push the rail out and widen the gauge ever so slightly to create a little bit more slack in that little piece of track. And touch wood, we seem to be all right now, so we can run trains in and out quite happily. Nothing seems to be causing any problems, and stuff goes around there, no problem at all. And obviously, if anything was going to derail, it would be something like a pannier tank with its 6 coupled wheels. So if that's fine, then I'm sure everything else will be. But yeah, happy days with that. So I guess we can start to think about moving on now. So before I ballast, one of the two other things I want to do is I've got this set of, not this one actually, I've got a set of point levers in here somewhere. That's mechanical point locks. Somewhere in here I've got hand point levers. Somewhere in here, there we go. That was the wrong one. So I've got these to fit, which obviously will be a nice little addition to the 3 points. And obviously I want to fit those really before I start ballasting. So they're one of the 2 main things. The second thing is I want to get the hard standing in here. It's basically going to be quite a simplistic just piece of plasticard glued onto there. And then I can ballast around it willy-nilly. And then I can leave the top to decide what I want to do with it. Whether it's a bit of car parking, whether it's somewhere to put a skip, somewhere for a mesh room. Who knows? But yeah, that should be fun. So we'll get those fitted up, and then we'll get that done, and then it'll be ballast. Well, those 3 are done now. I've cleaned them up a bit, and I've then pushed the levers in through the hole a little bit further, just so they've got a bit of strength to them, so they don't just flop about, and a little bit of rocket rapid just to secure them. So they go on the points with this piece facing in towards the track. I have trimmed down the tie bars just slightly, but yeah, they just sit up against those sleepers like that. So that's pretty good there. However, I might just quickly, before I glue them down, give them just a touch of sleeper grind paint. I was saying that actually I can do that after with some acrylics that will dry a lot faster than enamels. So I'll just glue them in first, and then I'll paint them after. So should be as easy as trying to get the glue out when it's run out. So here goes nothing. Oh, we got a little bit. There we go. Yep, we've got some glue on there. I mean, worst case, when I come to PVA the ballast, that will hold it down regardless. So we go on there with that. Lovely. And there's one. We got the second one here, and then the third one will be the same thing. They're all in then, looking good. As I say, I've just got to paint them quickly. This one is a little bit tight in the tunnel, but hey ho, it's not too bad. You could still get a shunter down there to pull that, it's no problem at all. You've got the other side to walk through anyway. I have very quickly just chucked a coat of concrete paint just over this bit of plasticard here, so that's all looking lovely now. That's gone off. Now, the only other thing before I ballast, of course, other than painting those, I needed a water tower. Now, I did have this, and I wasn't sure what to do with it, because this water tower is one that normally has these extra parts on, so they sit down in, or up even in there, and that is basically because this water tower would in effect sit on the end of a platform, sort of like here, for example. So you'd have this water tower here, and then you'd have the hoses coming down on the end of the platform for watering the locos. However, I want to use the water crane rather than put this here because it'd look a bit odd out front of the depot, I think. So I want to use the water crane, so I just want it as a water tower, and luckily they just pull out of the bottom. So I will just clean these up a little bit, and at some point I'll need to put maybe a dab of filler in there. And on the top we had the pull chains, so they have pulled out as well. Now the top is obviously very visible, so I'm definitely going to have to chuck a little bit of filler in. So that's something I will do at some point. But that's no big deal, and I can do that when it's fitted anyway, the filler that is. So obviously, without breaking it, I need to glue this down. So I've just filed the bottom flat, so that's going to sit around here somewhere, just to take up this little bit of space in the centre. And now it will just act as a standalone water tower for supplying the little depot. Something quite relaxing, isn't there, about painting? Very therapeutic. I suppose this day and age, people just say it's good for your mental health, don't they? But it's more than that. I don't know. You feel like you've accomplished something. I like it. I reckon that's looking pretty good then, so it's probably about time I get on and just start going at it with the ballast. And for this, I've chosen DCC Concepts Legacy Ballast. I've gone for a 2mm scale N-gauge ballast because I find the 00 stuff is probably a bit too coarse, as I am regretting on my main layout. So this is the light grey blend, softer grey / paler mix. You see there, the bottom one. I was going to go for the dark steam era mix, but it's very dark, so I didn't really want to do it. I figured I'm better off starting with a light colour, and then worst case I can go over it with the airbrush or some sort of wash or something like that to darken it down in the areas it will be needed, such as like around the ash pit and stuff like that. So hopefully this will do the job. I quite like ballasting. I know a lot of people don't. I enjoy it. It's a bit of a pain to do, of course, but I find it quite rewarding because it changes the complete look of a layout, and it makes it look like a bare sort of train set sort of thing to an actual full diorama / layout. So easiest way to do it, I don't use a ballast spreader. Do it all by hand, pour a bit in the lid, and then go along with the lid at an angle and just tap the lid as you go along the track. And you want to put enough ballast so that it just doesn't go above the sleepers, and then you don't spend hours of your life sweeping it up and down with a brush like I see a lot of people do. It's a very silly mistake to make, so less is more. You can always easily add it in areas that look a bit bare, but it's very difficult to take it away. So please take that on board, and it'll make your life a lot easier. ballasting is all done then. So now it's time to spray it so it gets all wet, and then we want to go over it with our PVA and water mixture, and probably let this set for, I'd say, at least a day and a half. Although being fine ballast, it should seep through fairly well, and I am keeping it fairly warm in here, so we might not be too bad. But yeah, let's just double check before we go too mad. Our little pannier tank will run through. Looking good. That's the ballast all dry then, and it's looking really good. I'm super pleased. It's come out really nice. I had to come in once the ballast had dried and mess about with the points, so I had to throw the points a couple of times and get a very thin screwdriver in just to dig the PVA out that was against the point blades, just to free it all up. There was a couple rogue bits of ballast here and there that I had to dig out, but that's pretty normal with ballasting. You just got to be very careful. I didn't put too much glue on the points, luckily. Normally I just get the syringe and just go all over in a big line, but on the points I sort of went in between each sleeper, which I do think has helped on this occasion. It's not something I usually do, but it's something I'll probably do in the future. But it's looking so good, and even the edges are fairly neat. I probably did pull the tape off a little early. It's still slightly soft in one or two places, but really not bad. I think by the morning it'll be dry. This is 2 days after I initially put the ballast down now, so it's obviously not particularly warm down here, so we've not done too bad. Obviously over here, all that I glued down was I put some scatter in between where the hard standing and the embankment is. I've got to put the buffer stop back in, but everything else is looking snazzy. Super pleased. As you can see, we have got power, so the two engines are sat here simmering away. So we'll get a couple engines moving, maybe bring the tube stock in just to test for how it runs in and out that siding and how it goes through the curve, and then that'll be the end of the video. So I guess that brings us to the end of this video. It's all done now, and as you can see, we're all happily running away. So I've got a few bits to do, but this generally runs really well. The problem area is actually my scissor crossing. Now you notice that this ran over nice and slowly. That's because that is now through wired, so every car has pickups, whereas these, even with stay alives, are struggling. So I'm really going to have to investigate my scissor crossing a lot more, bearing in mind that's going to be one of the integral parts of using this. So I really need to look into that. But as for this section itself, absolutely incredible. It runs really good, and I'm super pleased. Obviously, as well as that, it's running well considering it's only just jumping off of 1 point. So all the dropper wires still need wiring in. It's got no bus under it, nothing. It's literally 2 cables on 1 point, and that's powering the whole lot. So even the frogs, being unifrog, they're great, but the frog section isn't powered. So that's something I'll do when I get some point motors, because I'm having some trouble with my Cobalt IP digital point motors at the minute, which if any of you have had issues, let me know. But for the shed, super happy. I'm pleased with how the hard standings come out in both areas. I will try and make them look a bit different to each other, and they obviously need a lot of weathering because they're very light grey at the minute, but they do have a nice concrete texture to them. They're very sort of rough, and it's just how I like. So this section down here, you can see I've got a couple of vehicles, just what I had lying around. I have got the London Transport ones up in that box there, which I will get out on the next video. But yeah, that's just about big enough for parking a car. I'll have some railings behind there, something like that, to segregate that area off. I'll probably have like a shunter walking around or something, and a few staff dotted around the area. I'm wondering whether to put some sort of walkway in, potentially down the back of this siding, so that the driver could walk up to the front end of the train. That, or just have a crossing this end, because I do have a barrow crossing kit that I could make use of. I think I mentioned about electrifying the sidings. So the siding that the Craven set is in, that will be electrified. And I'm also considering electrifying the little middle road here, little stabling road. The thought being that the Craven set will probably do most of the branch line stuff on the layout when I'm messing about with it. Because it runs so nicely, and just because it suits the branch line work, because that's what it did towards the end of its life. But then I've got the option of running it into Breakspear Station, then running it out across the scissor crossing and stabling it there, which is a really nice little place. But if I electrify this siding here, that means that I can also stable my collection of Met Bobo locos, which I've got 5 Bobos and 1 Camelback loco. So that'd be somewhere for me to put 1 or 2 of those. I think I'd fit 2 in there quite happily. So that'd just be another little cool thing. And then of course, have the steam engines dotted about anywhere. They can fit wherever they want. Yeah, it all runs really nice. I should really come up with a method of stopping things coming off the end here. I'm not sure what I can do. I might make a little piece that basically screws to the back of the layout, because obviously when it's in here I won't have a back seam, so this is literally open. So I might have a little screw on piece. I'll just make it out of a square of wood or something with like a sort of stop that comes across, so that if I'm not looking where I'm going, it will just bump into that and won't go off the end of the layout. Because I know I can sit here and say, oh, it's not going to happen, I'll be careful, but at some point it's going to happen. I mean, I got a brand new Cavalex 56 the other day and ran it around the layout, and then it got to the tunnel. Then I realised the lift out section was up. So these things happen. But yeah, in general, super pleased with this. It's gone really well. I've got to say thank you to Anthony from AGR, because I got all the track work off him, the plastic card off him. He really helped me out with that, so thanks a bunch, mate. And yeah, it's getting there, isn't it? One last little thing before I sign off. We have got a name for the shed, and it's going to be called Cripsey Brook. Now, this is obviously designed to go onto my Ongar layout, which is part of the Ongar Railway. And where this comes off of the Ongar layout, where this road bridge is, in reality, would be a brook going underneath, and it's called Cripsey Brook. So instead of the brook, we've got an overbridge. So I thought it's a little nod to the location, and obviously it takes into consideration that we have got rid of it. So this will probably be called Cripsey Road. So that should be cool, and it will sort of keep it tied in with the theme. and I didn't want something TMD, something maintenance depot, blah de blah, because you get too many of them at a show. So I figured Cripsey Brook would be cool. It's something unusual. But yeah, from me, thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoy it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and how you think I could improve things. Next video, we'll probably get the airbrush out, do a bit of weathering, maybe chuck some details in, sort the vehicles out. And at some point I want to tackle the shed because it needs some corrugated iron across it and it needs prettying up rather than this modern image look. But yeah, there's plenty to do, there's loads to get on with, but in general the main thing is looking pretty decent. So thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.